Coming up, the E.T. Adventure at Universal Studios. Welcome to the SeeWDW Near and Far podcast, where we explore perspectives of the Walt Disney World Resort from 10 to 1,000 miles away. I am Mike the Far in this equation.
And I'm John the Near.
So today we're not going to be talking about the Walt Disney World Resort. We're going to be talking about the E.T. Adventure at Universal Studios. And John, this is one that we've talked about back and forth, and I've actually been looking forward to this one for a while. Interesting stuff on the research. Some new stuff, but it actually introduced me to some of the engineers at Universal. It's like apparently Universal likes to use British engineers, it sounds like. So that was something that was a bit of a surprise. But with that said, I know it's a ride that before I even ever went to Universal, you used to talk to me about quite a bit.
Yeah, for me, it's a ride. I didn't go to Universal till the late 90s, the same with Disney, but it definitely was. Again, I went there as somebody that knew nothing about theme parks at all. And it's one of those that stuck in my head, and I never forgot it. The sights, the queue, the smell, the weirdness, it really stuck with me. So
yeah, you're absolutely right. The weirdness and it kind of helps that we're from a generation where E.T. was launched, right, as a movie. It's an IP that's probably it was part of our childhood, right? So.
Well, I have to say, I watched it, probably a couple months ago now, and it held up.
Yeah.
It's so good. So
it really, really does. I mean, the themes and everything, it's a lot of coming of age, and that still holds up. That still is relevant to this day, right? So. All right, let's talk a little bit about the movie itself. The release of Steven Spielberg's E.T., the Extraterrestrial in 1982 created a cinematic phenomenon that captured the hearts and imaginations of audiences around the world. The film tells the story of a young boy named Elliot who befriends an alien creature and embarks on a heartfelt adventure to help him return home. E.T. quickly became a cultural sensation, breaking numerous box office records and becoming the highest-grossing film of its time. The film's success can be attributed to its masterful storytelling, emotional depth, and its ability to resonate with both children and adults. It struck a chord with audiences by exploring universal themes of friendship, acceptance, and the power of connection. E.T. himself became an iconic character with his endearing appearance and memorable phrases like E.T. phone home ingrained into popular culture. The film received critical acclaim, earning 4 Academy Awards and cementing its status as a beloved classic. Decades later, E.T. the Extraterrestrial continues to captivate new generations, leaving an indelible mark on cinema and solidifying its place as one of the most influential and cherished films in history.
You know what's funny though? I have never I'm thinking of this in today's day and age, but it was so successful, and yet why didn't they have an ET too? I think because they weren't worried about money as much as a really good story and everything makes sense. No convoluted 20-part ET series or anything like that. So, and you know what else I wanted to say?
Mm-hmm.
If you watch ET a little bit, and it's a great one. Between ET and the Goonies, you watch those, and then take a look at Stranger Things, and
Mm-hmm.
you don't wonder where they got their success from so much. They use
Absolutely.
that charm and that simplicity of the 80s, and then but Stranger Things then adds in a whole new element. But that's where they got the basic charm to pull everybody in, is looking at movies like ET,
Yep, you are absolutely dead on. It uses the time tested formula of the coming of age story. And the reason why E.T. didn't have a sequel, well, the story was told. What more needed to be told? You know what I mean?
If Disney owned it, they wouldn't agree. They'd say,
No,
"Hey,
they would tell things that, but I mean, the thing was the power of the ending of E.T. when E.T. left Elliot, that there was power in that goodbye, right? I mean, those two characters, they knew they weren't going to see each other again. And it was two people that learned to love each other through a healthy, sometimes unhealthy friendship. And that, their parting, had such weight and power and emotional energy to it. You couldn't, I mean, you ruined that ending if you tell another story. So,
yeah." And
yeah.
everybody grew up too, because it takes a long time to make movies. Drew Barrymore was perfect in there, but
Right.
again, such a perfect part. And as a kid that young, I can't believe how well she
Oh,
was
yeah.
able to act in that too. I think I heard before that I think she was supposed to do Poltergeist too, but then she
Hmm.
was already doing ET or something like that too. That just made me think of that.
Yep, that's right. I believe you're right about that. The thing that really helps without having a sequel was Universal making this ride, and that's the thing. How do you craft a story without ruining the original movie? And turn it into a theme park ride. They approached Steven Spielberg to help them do that. And that's what's so magical about this ride. This gives you a chance to live in ET's world for a few minutes, right?
Yep. And getting Steven Spielberg involved with it means it's got to be done to the same standards as
Right.
ET. And it has to make sense. It has to be done well. And I even heard that John Williams made an altered ET soundtrack to flow with the ride too. So
That's
just
really cool. Yeah.
just a lot of stuff.
Universal does that though, don't they, John? Whereas Disney is very kind of, I don't want to say greedy in a money way about
Uh,
their IP, and we know they are. But I'm saying, from
to
an
be
IP standpoint, right? They are take no prisoners. They don't ask for feedback. They just
to
create
be
what they want to
fair though,
create.
with IPs like this, I don't think Steven Spielberg would allow it. And then when you get to Harry Potter,
Right.
uh, J.K. Rowling says nothing happens without my personal approval. And
Exactly.
again, Disney can't handle that though. They'd be like,
Yeah.
"Nah, I can't. We have to be able to do whatever we want." So,
That's where I was going, exactly where you just went. Universal has shown the willingness to work with creative creators and creative people to use their IP to partner with, not to dictate what an attraction or how its use is in their parks, right? So they work with these creative people. That's not to say that Disney hasn't done that or does not do
Avatar,
that. I mean,
yeah,
James Cameron,
Avatar,
right?
yeah. But
Yeah.
look how long that took. It was like
Um,
10 years of probably bickering with each other until they finally got everything where they wanted it. So
right.
I don't think Disney's a great place for that kind of thing. So,
Right. I mean, George Lucas worked with them on
yep,
Star Tours in the late 80s, early 90s, which that worked very well.
that's probably why
Um,
that's my favorite one.
yeah, so I mean it's rare for Disney, but for Universal, they seem to to do this regularly. I mean, another example is The Simpsons before Disney owned it, right? So
Yeah, that was very well done. That's like watching an episode of The Simpsons you can only see at the parks between the pre-show and the ride itself, and it's
mhm.
almost all the voice actors and you know.
And Marvel before that, before Marvel was owned by Disney,
Oh
there's
yeah,
another example. So
yeah.
and whether out of necessity or whether out of policy or what have
Oh yeah.
you,
When they did the
Universal,
Amazing Spider-Man, they put Stan Lee all over in it, and I'm sure they
right?
didn't have to do that, but they know fans would get a kick out of it, and everybody likes seeing it. So.
Exactly. All right, let's talk a little bit about the history of the ET ride. The development and opening of the ET ride at Universal marked a significant milestone in theme park attractions. It was inspired by the success of Steven Spielberg's 1982 film. Universal Studios collaborated with Steven Spielberg himself to bring the magic of ET's world to life in a groundbreaking ride experience. The ride was conceptualized as a way to immerse guests in the heartwarming and adventurous story of E.T., allowing them to become part of the narrative. After years of planning and design, the E.T. ride officially opened its doors to the public on June 9, 1990 at Universal Studios, Florida. Its success led to the creation of similar versions of the ride at Universal Hollywood, Universal Japan, and ensuring that ET's enchanting journey could be enjoyed by visitors worldwide. Notice they said Universal Studios Florida. At some point they became Universal Studios Orlando or something to that effect, right?
Actually, no, it's a confusing thing, but Universal Studios Orlando is the name of the resort, meaning
Mm-hmm.
the hotels, Islands of Adventure, City Walk, Universal Studios down there. But that park is called Universal Studios Florida.
Mm-hmm.
It took me a while to get the hang of it, but I know people that work there, so they call it USF, Universal Studios Florida. So
No
that's the
kidding.
name.
Oh.
So as you're walking under that arch to go to
Mm-hmm.
the Studios Park, it says Universal Studios Florida. When you walk into the resort itself, it says Universal Orlando Resort. So,
Wow, that's cool.
and I
I
know it
didn't
too
realize.
because I make sure my hashtags and my locations and all my videos are correct. So I'm
Yeah,
always doing that.
that's very
Yeah,
cool.
that's good, Mike.
Yeah. So the collaboration between Spielberg and Universal in creating the ET ride was a union of creative vision and technical expertise. Spielberg, as the director and creator of the beloved film, played an integral role in the ride's development. His deep understanding of the ET universe, combined with his storytelling prowess, allowed him to provide invaluable insights into translating the magic of the film onto the ride experience. With this intimate knowledge of the original source material, Spielberg was able to craft a story that melded perfectly with the park's vision. Universal Studios, renowned for their immersive theme park attractions, brought their technical prowess and expertise to the table, working closely with Spielberg to ensure that the ride captured the essence of the film while delivering a captivating and unforgettable new adventure for park guests. Together, their collaboration resulted in a ride that beautifully extended the ET story, captivating audiences with its imaginative storytelling and innovative ride technology. So, just quickly to do a ride overview, um, the queue is themed like the California forest that we get from the movie, right?
Yeah.
And there's real props in that ride queue experience. It's even like that communicator that they use to communicate ET's people, right, to come get them.
Oh yeah, yeah. They have a prop of that, and it sounds exactly like in the film. And in this part, they have the people in their space suits in the woods looking for ET. And I've never seen it, but I heard there's an ET animatronic in the woods that once in a while is supposed to move like across the screen, and he has
Hmm.
his heart glowing red. I honestly have never seen it in all
I've
those
seen
years,
it,
but I
John.
heard of
I've seen that, I believe, if I remember correctly. But I think I do because it sounds very familiar. I don't know. I should have videoed the whole
it.
thing.
Botanicus pops up too, right in the queue, and kind of tells you about that he needs you to save ET and go to his planet.
Right.
But
And
again, I don't see that very often, but I have Express, so I kind of don't spend a lot of time there.
right, exactly. Once you get there, and I love that queue, by the way, man, the smells and everything, but we'll get into that with the detailed walkthrough next. Um, the ride has you boarding a bicycle that's four across, and I think is it four across and three deep, I believe, right,
Yeah,
John?
yep. So 12 people at a time.
Yeah, and he even has ET sitting as we're seeing right there. Like there's the ET basket, ET's in the basket in front of you.
Yep.
And you through the ride, you experience different adults trying to get ET, capture them while you're on Earth. And once you escape, you go to ET's the Green Planet in order to complete his mission to save it. And we will get into that next. So like in the ride itself for our walkthrough here, we're going to go back to the pre-show, and you're in that when you enter into the ride itself, you go down a line. The line that you're in, the queue, there's nothing special about it, but at the end of the queue, as you're queuing up to enter the attraction, you get a video from Steven Spielberg, right, John? And that
Yeah.
video tells you what the ride is all about, and you're going to play that for us right here, right?
What to do to help ET find them
Just a
and get them
clip.
home, and there's not a moment to lose because only ET's magic healing touch can save his friends and bring his planet back to health. ET must go home, and only you can help him. Ah, ET. That's right, ET. So why don't you show these people how we're going to get you back to the green planet? You and ET will be making your 3 million light year journey on these bikes, but don't worry, you don't have to pedal. But you will need an interplanetary passport. So before you leave with ET, tell your first name to one of our assistants, and they'll give you your pass. Oh. Sounds like ET's ready to go. So good luck, everyone. And remember, ET's counting on you, and so am I. Oh. It's up to you to save this planet so that he may visit us again.
Man, I love it.
Now, I have to say too, this is before my time, but I did hear that the beginning video wasn't always exactly the same. They started out with a different one in the 80s, and it was Steven Spielberg in a movie theater, and you were going to be part of the movie or something like that. And the little cards, they weren't planetary passport cards. They were passes to get backstage into the production. Like at first, it was all about movie production and making movies. So
Well, that fit with the mission of the studio, right? Itself. This was originally, supposedly an active movie studio. So I guess that fit with the theme, right?
yeah. But again, the theme kind of changed. It's not, I don't remember exactly when it changed because I wasn't there, but I know it started out different. And I think it started out too. They used to have bicycles and they used to have spaceships. And I couldn't even find a picture of what the spaceships looked like. I guess the reason that they had spaceships that you could get in was for ADA. And then eventually they modified the bikes to fit a wheelchair on there, and then they got rid of the spaceships because I guess it was hard to see. The spaceships were just a big kind of clunky flying saucer looking ship, and people complained they couldn't see, and everybody would line up for the bike side, and it was a problem, you know. But again, not anything I've ever seen. I guess
Hmm.
that was newer. But they do say that Botanicus does say to board a bike or spaceship to get to the green planet.
Hmm. Isn't that a little strange though that they put them? I mean, really to work with the story itself, you got to be on the bike, right? And so, I
Yeah,
mean, that kind of broke the immersion of the story for those poor people, right? But
yeah, it was a work in progress, I guess. But yeah, I guess it was hard to see from that.
at least they made it work, though. I mean, right? Eventually they fixed it and made it right. So
Yeah, yeah, and I'm sure it was probably quite interesting in
yeah.
all the
Now,
forms that it came in. So
now I got to tell you, during the pandemic, I don't believe I remember getting those passport ID cards. You know.
no, they stopped that. They stopped the pre-show too. It was just
Mhm.
spaced out. You walked right on through. So there
That's
was
sort of
no.
what I remember. I didn't remember Spielberg and I didn't remember the passport. So the last couple times I was down there, we did get the passport. So once you leave that pre-show, they do hand you a card. They ask for your name. They type your name in a computer and do a little gadgetry on the thing, and then give you this card that's supposedly an
It,
intergalactic passport, right?
I was gonna say too, they improved that over time too, because it didn't used to be able to say as many names, and at some point they upgraded the technology, and now it can do like 20,000 names. It still can't do everybody, but in like the late 90s, if you had an odd name, it wasn't going to work, but
Mm-hmm.
now it does. When I used to vacation, I used to tell it my name is Butch, and it would say bye Butch, and I just thought that was everybody thought that was hilarious to give it the wrong name.
That is
But I was
great.
gonna
I'm gonna
say
have to.
there's I didn't even know I had the whole queue. Basically, I walked through it. I was gonna say I just went past the communication device
Yeah,
that we talked about. It's exactly like it was in the movie. Yeah, there it is.
yeah. So
You
let's.
can hear it too.
Yeah,
It's a speak and spell or whatever. It goes
yeah.
beep, beep, beep. Yeah, you can hear the frogs and everything. I didn't realize I walked through the whole queue in this video. I must have done it on purpose just to get a little background. But Botanicus didn't come out, so it wasn't
Yeah.
that exciting.
Yeah, so let's talk a little bit about that queue. You know, it's as you go into the queue, you're actually walking into the California forest from the woods, right? You got big redwoods and all that kind of stuff in there. You got the smells, the sounds, the, deep, dark, foreboding nature of the forest that you got from the movie itself. So I think they've done a great. This is one of my favorite
Uh,
cues of any movie themed ride, John.
I know it's overused a lot, but I feel like that queue was one of the core memories that I had of my trip to Florida. When I would think about it, I would remember being in a dark, cold forest with the pine smell all around, and you know, getting to actually see a part of ET. Like, I just thought that was great. So again, in the 90s, when I had no experience at theme parks and had no idea what was at any of these places, this thing really grabbed you with the detail in it.
It really does. And let me say, as far as this goes, my wife is, about a year younger than me. So, we share generations like you and I do. And so this ride, this queue, everything about it sets the stage, right, for what you're about to experience. It gets you into that movie, kind of, immerses you, for lack of a better word, in what you already know, your generational knowledge. And this works for anyone really that's seen the movie. You are familiar with this forest and this feeling of walking through it. So, all right, once we get through the queue, we begin our journey by boarding the bicycles that we talked about, the ride vehicles themselves. The what do they call them? What do they call their workers, John? Team members, right?
Members.
So the team member, don't they scan your passport at this point?
Yeah, this is where you give them your passport, and they actually do it at this part right here when they put you on a number. That way, it's all programmed correctly.
Right. So once we get our passports scanned, we load up onto our bicycles. As we said, 4 people, 3 deep, and we set off on our journey to aid ET in his mission to get to the Green Planet. We begin our journey by dodging police, scientists, government agents, and other adults through the forest. As the obstacles become harder to avoid, ET performs his magic, allowing us to fly on our bikes as in the movie.
Now, you know how they changed the movie at some point? And I heard Steven Spielberg regrets that. He said that he should have never changed something in the movie to appease, modern times or whatever. But I'm pretty sure they had guns in the ride too.
They did.
Like their officer was standing there with guns, and they took all the guns away and gave him walkie-talkies. So.
They gave him flashlights too, flashlights and walkie-talkies. Yeah, that's exactly what they did. And again, it kind of broke that time frame. You know what I mean? So, but as
in the 80s, guns are. Everybody's got to have guns.
Right. Well, even in California, they had guns back then. So yeah, the ET performs his magic, as I said, allowing us to fly on our bikes in the movie. Only this time, his magic allows us to warp straight to his home, the Green Planet. So as we're watching on the screen right now, we are still seeing the forest scene, but we are about to make it to the Green Planet, right?
Well, I wanted to mention to you, too, a little side note. Well, actually, a couple of side notes, but I think this cityscape is better than Peter Pan is one of them. I think that's so well done.
It is very well done.
The first perspective of it and stuff. And then you'll see the bike scene. This is the part where you warp to the Green Planet. But I did want to mention before that, though, that I didn't realize this, but the Green Planet design was actually based on a book that was supposed to be a sequel to E.T., it's a novel by William Kotzwinkle, and I wanted to. I'll show you in the. I don't want to bring it up on the screen, but you can see there. Yeah, it's backwards, but
very interesting.
It's a book, and it has all those weird aliens in it. And that's where they got the concept art for the Green Planet, because when you look at that thing and it's like, where did they come up with this stuff? So
totally agree. It is bizarre, but it is great that we warp after we hit the moon scene, flying across the moon. But all right, once we arrive at the Green Planet, we meet many creatures of various species telling us to take ET to a certain character or destination. Is it a character or a destination they're telling? Don't they say take them to Teakley or something like that?
Yeah, basically all the aliens that Steven Spielberg tells you about in the beginning, you're supposed to find each one of them, and somehow that saves the planet. I don't know, but
Okay.
it's part of it. So that scene you just saw was actually the first one, and like even here, that's not E.T. That's one of his friends, but that's one of the people you're looking for there. And then this
Welcome home.
And there it is.
everybody loves that one, the welcome
Yep.
home, you've arrived part. I
That's
always
very
remember too, when I yeah, that one's terrifying.
Yeah.
But I always remember when Universal was the first park to reopen after all the shutdowns, and I always remember I went right to ET when everything finally reopened, and it gave whole new meaning to Morgda or whatever his name is, saying "Welcome home." You know, you've arrived. I was like, yes, like I thought that was even cooler because of nobody was able to do that. Yeah, so I guess John Williams actually, made a version of what he did before to fit this ride. So again, that's impressive. Imagine having John Williams write a score for a theme park ride. You got to be Stephen King or Steven Spielberg. I've been watching a lot of Stephen King movies on Netflix. Sorry.
No, that's all right. Well, we journey through all these scenes, complete with all these audio animatronics, and there are quite a few of them. This entire attraction is just filled with them, right?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure I heard somewhere like 300 or something.
My goodness, wow.
It's a lot. And I was going to say, even in the queue, there's multiple. Like I said, there's Botanicus, there's the people in the space suits, there's ET running by, there's the communicating device, which is actually moving around. So they're all animatronics of some sort,
Mm-hmm.
Amazing amount of animatronics on there.
It is. It's an incredible amount. Some of these animatronics resemble ET species. Others are brand new species that we've yet to have met. In the end scene, ET has saved his planet and thanks us for helping him, and even calls some of us out by name, including Butch.
Yep, whatever name you give him. I have to say, it works pretty well.
It does.
And the team members are so used to hearing made up names that they don't hesitate no matter what name you give them, because I think if you give them a ridiculous enough name, like if I went up and said my name is they literally would go like this and give me a card, and ET's not going to say your name. That's all. They don't have time to ask you twice what your name is. So be clear, because if you try to do something too funny or they don't understand you, he's just not going to say it. But you're going to get your card and they're going to say, yep. Because by the time he's not saying your name, it's too late. It's at the end of the ride. You're getting off. Goodbye. And I know that for a fact because, again, I've been there with my nieces and my nephew, and they try to come up with a ridiculous name, and he doesn't say that. He's limited to like 20,000 actual names or something, but
yeah.
But he does say a lot. When I use my real name, he says it every time. So John is an easy one. So I'm sure Mike is says that 18,000 times a day too.
Yeah, that would be common. I got to come up with something though that's reasonably uncommon. Like, I mean, do you think?
Tell him your name is Botanicus, like the guy.
I was thinking like Boba or Boba Fett or Chewbacca or something like that.
Yeah,
I mean, hey, I don't know. Episode 1, they had ET species in the Senate, so in Star Wars, you never know.
Yeah, it's pretty cool.
Oh, very cool. So. Overall, I mean, the ride is, to some people, it may seem dated, right? But to us, and I think to to traditionalists, this theme park, it's a dark ride, man. How often do you get dark rides nowadays? Not very often.
Yeah,
So,
I just wish that theme parks were smarter with that because, again, that's the one thing that was cut from Galaxy's Edge. It's like cut whatever you want, but don't cut the dark ride. That's going to be the one that um, just fill it with cool Star Wars stuff, and we'll go on it forever. But again, no, that's not what
yeah.
they did. But
Yeah, and I love it. I love that scene that you have on the screen at the end where, you have the kid's finger reaching out to ET, which the kid presumably would be Elliot, and that reminds you of, that scene in the movie and, where
and
they're touching fingers. I
and
love it.
and as you're walking out too, every like 5 seconds or so, ET says over the loudspeakers as you're walking out of the exit, he says, "I'll be right here." Like,
Yeah.
and again, I always thought that was really cool.
Yeah. Yeah.
And for the at least the past like 30 years, he has been.
Yes, he has been. That's very
That's
true.
amazing.
Maybe that's part of their thinking when they said that. You know what I mean?
Yeah, probably, but I'm pretty sure though that they had some kind of deal with Steven Spielberg based on a bunch of stuff, but he basically said you can never get rid of my ET ride, and they were like, it's part of a deal of some kind. But someday, when Steven Spielberg isn't around anymore, I'm not sure if it'll still be safe or not. I like to think it would be, just based on generations grew up and loved it. But I think it's the perfect test ride for all these rides that they all get rid of over time,
Yeah.
especially Disney, to say what would have happened if we didn't. Oh.
Yeah.
The
I,
It gets popular and then it slows and then popular again. A new generation grows up and they're like, "What is this weirdness?" And popular again. You know what I mean? Like
mhm.
it's up and down. So again,
Totally
uh,
agree. Yeah, I think, if you look at some rides, there are timeless rides at Disney that they mostly leave alone, like Peter Pan, like It's a Small World, they may tweak them over time, but it shows you that there is room in fandom for timeless rides, right? Timeless attractions. And ET is like the ultimate testimony to that. It still does have long lines, and sometimes, maybe they get shorter here and there, like you said, but it's still
right
timeless, John.
right now they're doing major construction back by ET. Like everything around it is all getting redone. So it's very hard to get back there. It looks like it's not open, and then you get closer, but the exit is open for the entrance and you have to go. And so I feel like it's a little slower right now,
Hmm.
but it's still pretty darn um, busy. There you can see some of the construction walls like right up against the queue, like
Oh,
it's
yeah.
boxed out. And even the gift shop, I don't know if they're doing anything to it, but because of the location, they're not using it right now, which is a shame because they always had the photo ops in there, the one where you're riding the bike and the moon around you, and then the toy closet was in there too. You can actually get a picture like you're in the toy closet hiding with
Hmm.
ET,
Hmm.
and those have been there forever too. So I'm hoping they're there when it reopens. But
Let's hope so. I mean, they're only supposed to be building, like is it illuminations or what are they putting back there?
back there, I'm not sure what they're doing. I think I heard like maybe the Secret Life of Pets or something
Uh,
like that. They never tell anybody what they're doing, but the Illuminations Avenue and Minion Land is in the front of the park, so it's not
mhm.
near this. So they might have two areas there that are good for kids. And speaking of that, I heard a soft opening tomorrow for a lot of the restaurants and bakery and all that, like in Minion Land. So that's amazing. We've literally just watched them change it, put up new stuff, everything up, and it's like it's unbelievable how quick they work.
Yeah,
It
they do.
like it's very impressive. Whether you like Minions or not, they converted that place so fast. Once they started working, it's done.
It just goes to show the two philosophies of the big parks in town down there. You know, one rides out their construction work as long as they can, you know, with the idea of
2,100 days and counting.
yeah, I mean, there it's all in my mind. It must be some kind of accounting junk, right? That they're trying to do some kind of accounting stuff. But Universal, man, when they say they're building something, they build it, and it's built well, it's built safe, and you know, it's lasting.
Well, I was gonna say the new Minions gift shops, the theming too. Again, I'm not a big Minions guy, but I like to go into a gift shop and see everything built into everything, and just little stuff and things that if you watch the movie, you'll recognize in this corner. You know what I mean? Like just
Yeah.
stuff hidden everywhere. Stuff. And again, there's other parks that used to do that, and
So that's the thing. Like Universal is not perfect. I mean, if you have motion sickness, there's a lot of things you're not going to be able to do there. But this particular ride, this ET adventure, is pretty much fun for the whole family. A great,
yeah,
great
I've got
family ride.
friends that have motion sickness and they can't ride coasters, and they don't like riding scary stuff, and again, one of my friends, he'll go there, he'll ride ET, and
Hmm.
he still loves it though. He's like, oh, I love coming here. He goes, I'll just ride ET. You go ahead and do Rip Ride Rocket or whatever. I'll
Hmm.
go back and ride ET and meet you after. So, and it's that good that
Yep.
it's not a disappointment to have to ride ET. Usually, the people who do that with the kids have better memories than the ones who went out and did the thrill rides. So.
I always say if you're going to Universal, you have a ticket to see Hollywood Horror or yeah Halloween Horror Nights, and you get in the park early. Like you get there at fairly cheap, by the way. Extra couple hours in the park before the Horror Nights ticket, and you can walk around and do a few things. I always say go to ET first, then go see the horror and makeup show, then go see the Bourne Stuntacular. Then what's left. Hey man, you just covered a couple that you got ET in and a couple shows. I mean, that's really cool alone just by itself. But if you have some time left, maybe go see Men in Black or go check out the Harry Potter stuff. You don't have to ride them, but go in the shops and stuff. But ET, every time you got to do it.
Yeah, and I still do it all the time. Like I said, I was just there a couple days ago, and
All right.
I did it again.
Yeah. Yeah. All right, let's talk a little bit about behind the scenes, the technology and design. We'll cover this really quick because there are not a lot of people named as far as who worked on the ride, because Universal usually doesn't push these people to the front like say Disney does. But the engineers who are known to have worked on the ET Adventure attraction include Peter Alexander, who is a British engineer. He was the lead engineer for the attraction. Other attractions that he worked on at Universal: The Amazing Adventures of Spider-Man, Harry Potter and the Forbidden Journey, and The Revenge of the Mummy.
Man,
He's
all my favorite ones.
yeah. So he is known for his innovative ride systems and his ability to create attractions that are both thrilling and family friendly.
They really are that could be a list of what are my favorite rides around the parks. So that's amazing.
Yeah, another engineer that worked on the attraction was John Wardley, also a British engineer who was the creative director for the attraction, and he worked previously or in beyond the ET attraction, he worked on the Incredible Hulk coaster. He worked on the Mummy ride and the Swarm. He is known for his creative and immersive designs, which often combine elements of dark rides, thrill rides, and water rides. Man, I know a water ride I wish they would have maybe hired this guy to work on.
Nah, they don't need him.
Also, there were several engineering companies involved. The Sally Corporation, who was the manufacturer of the animatronics for the attraction. The Sally Corporation is an American animatronics company that has created animatronics for a number of popular theme park attractions, including the ET Adventure, the Simpsons Ride, and the Haunted Mansion. They are known for their quality animatronics and their ability to create lifelike characters that are both entertaining and engaging. It's interesting because I thought only Imagineering worked on the Haunted Mansion, so it's kind of cool. They got some gravitas, right?
Yeah, that's like I said, they created like 300 animatronics for ET. So
Yeah, unbelievable. But, also, the Burkett Engineering Group, who they were the company that developed the text-to-speech technology that allows ET to say your name. Burkett Engineering is a British engineering company that specializes in text-to-speech technology. They are known for their innovative and reliable text-to-speech technology, which is used in a number of different applications, including theme park attractions, voice recognition software, and medical devices. So I found that interesting. Engineering companies working on this attraction. Let's talk a little bit about the ride system. The ride system used on ET Adventure is a suspended dark ride. This means that the ride vehicles are suspended from a track that runs through the attraction. The vehicles are basically open air gondolas with 3 rows of 4 seats for a total of 12 riders per vehicle. Is that true, John? 12 riders?
yep, that's correct.
Okay. The track is designed to allow for a somewhat thrilling ride with sharp turns and a little swaying of the ride vehicles while remaining safe enough for younger children. The ride system was, what were you going to say?
I was going to say, you can definitely feel the sway. Like when you go around turns and stuff, you can feel it. It's a good ride system. I enjoy it. So.
Yeah. The ride system was designed by Dynamic Attractions, who have also designed ride system for other popular Universal attractions, such as The Amazing Adventures of Spider-Man and Harry Potter and the Forbidden Journey. The ride system for ET Adventure is a combination of dark ride elements such as animatronics and special effects and thrill ride elements such as swinging and swaying of the ride vehicles. The combination of elements makes ET Adventure a fun and exciting ride for all ages. Here are some of the features, just a slight rundown of the features of that ride system. The suspended ride vehicle, the 3 rows of 4 seats for a total of 12 riders. I didn't realize there were 12 riders, John. I thought there were more than that. So,
Yeah, that's it. But they do. I think they can. It handles a lot of people at least. So. I think they can actually load up like they load 2 cars at once. Maybe that's what makes you think of it. I think they can.
It could be. You're right, and because that does have a pretty long lineup row. The rows themselves. So, and it's pretty efficient. It doesn't take them long to load up. So.
No, it definitely doesn't. Yeah, I was just gonna take a quick. Yeah, I didn't record up closer, so.
Yeah. It is interesting though, the track design. I never really thought of the swaying and the turns, but that's interesting that they built that in, just to give you a little bit of a thrill at different times. Of course, we know that the massive amount of animatronics, special effects, really make the ride. In my opinion, and the fact that it's a dark ride and just those slight thrill ride elements, man, that's just a topper, right?
Yeah, that was hard to find at Universal. So over the years it got easier, but
Right.
it's you know when they were concentrating on thrill for everything, ET was a welcome retreat away from that a little bit. So
All right. So I guess in concluding, as far as my opinion personally, I can't say enough about the ride. It's one of my favorite rides at Universal, to be honest with you. If nothing else, that I could take my whole family on it. Everyone enjoys it. It brings me back to my childhood, brings me back to that story of when I was a kid, and the ET story just unlocks so many memories in my brain of when I was a child and my mom was taking me to see the movie. Just the smells themselves unlock all of that. I guess I don't know if it's unique to us as Gen Xers, these types of stories. I don't think it really is necessarily, but I really think that there was just something special about growing up in the 80s, and this ride really unlocks a lot of those memories. Well done. Animatronics out, just everywhere, bursting at the seams. It has all those great dark ride elements, the mystery and kind of foreboding at times. You have the chase scene, more or less, not really chase scene, but you have the scene where you're kind of threatened by the human adults at the beginning. So
and it's one of the coolest cues too.
absolutely.
It's pretty memorable too. So honestly, when I first wrote it in the '90s, my memory of the queue was stronger than the ride. Like the ride kind of faded a little bit, but the queue, I always remembered being in that forest. Like I thought that was so cool. And again, it's uh, one of those things that Disney does very well too is putting you in the cool darkness and somewhere completely different. And I love it during the day. It's hot, it's bright, it's sunny, and all of a sudden you go into the cool California wooded
Mm-hmm.
area. Man, that is just really cool as you
Yeah.
walk back into the coolness. It's I really do appreciate that how dark and cool it is in there. And again, being from Florida, sometimes, and especially in the summer, it's great to
Mm-hmm.
get out of that sun for a while. And yeah, as far as I'm concerned, it is one it may be my favorite ride at Universal Studios, and you know, it shows by the amount of times I go on it. I go on it an awful lot because it does have express. So after 4 o'clock, I can ride it pretty easy anytime I want. So
It
I,
it
uh,
is
I tend to take advantage and ride it quite often.
it is an awesome attraction. Just so many strange creatures too. I
It's got a
mean,
lot of water in it too. Like they have the effects of water's coming down, water's
yeah.
spraying like fountains of water, and I for a while I think parts of the ride have a combination, the smell of chlorine and the smell of the smell of the the scent from ET.
Mhm.
The pine scent. So
Yeah. Yeah, that's true. I didn't mention about the water. That is an element that I didn't even think about, but it is like there's literally a scene where there's a bunch of the creatures kind of bathing almost in a waterfall kind of, so I really and I don't know if bathing's the right word, maybe playing might be a better way of putting it. But anyways, it is man, it's just when you go to the Green Planet, it's almost like a trip, right? I mean, it's strange. It's just different. It's nothing you really expect when you hear that you're riding an ET attraction. But it's cool because they've taken you to a different place outside of the movie. And I think I remember reading somewhere that when Spielberg was asked to write this story, he kind of said, hey, let's take them somewhere a little different, a little bit separate. What would the Green Planet, what would ET's home look like,
Yeah, so it's not just a retelling of the movie. It's
Right.
you go through the movie at the end, but you get a new added version where you get to visit the planet. So
Yeah. All right, so that should do it for ET. What a great ride. What a great attraction. Cheers to Universal for doing something timeless, right?
yeah.
It's rare nowadays for any theme park or amusement park to do something timeless like that. And they did it. It's been around since 1990, so it hasn't changed
Oh yeah,
much.
this is ET's house here too. He lives.
That
in a
is
weird-
cool. You get to see E.T.'s weird, like almost like Yoda's house on Dagobah,
Yeah, I didn't know that.
Yeah.
I guess the Green Planet book shows ET living in the weird pod thing.
Mm,
And a
very
lot of
cool.
those weird creatures in there, I guess they're plants, but they're alive. So they're like animals, but they're actually plants. So some of his weird friends that look really creepy.
Well, that's why he has to save it because they're part of the planet, right? They are,
Yeah.
so by using his healing powers from his hand, which is basically what the story calls for, he's saving the planet by, using his healing powers. So very cool. Love it. Love it. I love the attraction. All right, John, where can they find you online?
You can find me at SeeWDW on Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, TikTok. You can find me at C.UO on Instagram and Facebook. And you can find me going live on my CUO on Instagram, a lot of times riding ET. It's one of the few rides you can go live on at Universal. So I tend to do it a lot.
Very cool. All right, you can find me at the Giant Rat, THEE Giant Rat on Instagram, on YouTube, on TikTok, and on Twitter. And that should do it for this one. We will see you on the next one.